Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm Alexis, joined by David Francisco, of course. This is the show, the podcast that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more. And yes, you heard that right. Contrary to some interesting comments we've received lately, yes, this is a show that has more than 500 episodes. How did that happen? We don't even know how it happened. It just kind of, we started recording one day and then we just haven't stopped. And you might think some people would have just moved on, or I guess, look, to an outside looking in perspective, you might think to yourself, man, these guys have been doing a podcast for like 10 years and over 500 episodes. Get a life. Yeah, I mean, we don't have any. But we also mean socially, we are all friends with each other. And this is our main thing that we like to discuss with each other and like to do together. And it helps to have this podcast where we can actually air out how we feel. I don't know. I think it makes it a little bit more engaging that way. And it also, I think, would not be fair to think that we have been stagnant in life and that we've been the same people. If you have listened to this show, we have changed a lot. In some ways we haven't. I mean, we're our own individuals and we have our own affects and our own, likes and dislikes. But I do like to think that we are covering something that, I don't know, and we've said it many, many times. The more movies we watch, the more fuller people we are. More, nourished we are for the soul, the more compassion and empathy we have, the more informed we are about life and the history of the world and maybe where we perhaps might be going. I don't think any other topic for a podcast can make you feel this way or help you grow as a person than movies. Not certainly politics, or God forbid the Joe Rogan bros about lifting weights. Yay, you guys. Or sports podcast. I mean, I don't see how any of that other crap, honestly, can help you in your walk through life more than movies can. Movies can change the world. Movies can change the way we all feel about each other. As Roger Ebert once said, they're great machines for empathy. And it is something that is sorely lacking in society anywhere you see it. So, that's my soapbox. Anyway, that's what we talk about here on Red Spotlight. We are doing this without Peter. That way we don't have, a little gnat on the side that is just there to, poke us. Although, that might be a little unfair to say. He always brings it, I guess you could say. A really interesting commentary to what we have here. There was, Alexis, who joins our podcast sometimes and also might be the most religious viewer of the show. Of course, she catches up on the shows that she's not on. She wasn't on last time, and she shared some clips that were hilarious. There was a moment that Peter... I didn't even... about the young boy market or whatever, when he was referring to the young male demographic in movies, and that came out in a strange way. But more so, Alexis had mentioned that there was, some interesting observations she made about, Peter. That is not something that he, I think, wears on his sleeve as often. So, yeah, that might be a good way to look back at our last podcast, because I think it was a good one. That was talking about one battle after another. Great movie. great movie. And I wanted to also say to you, David, before we move on anywhere else, I hope I didn't come off as unusually harsh to you. I don't think you felt that way. Or maybe you did. I think by the time that we got to the end of the podcast, I was fried.
We were all tired by the end. And I mean, it was fine.
And I don't know, any little thing at that point could have just made me feel... What? Wait, what? And genuinely, I asked questions for clarification. I feel like I knew ultimately what you were trying to say the whole time, but to my ear, it didn't sound like you were communicating that properly, so I wanted to give you an opportunity. Of course, if Peter were here, he would say, excuses. He's just trying to save face. Whether that is the truth or not, I mean, I think ultimately, through my questions, you came to a place of better communication. So you're welcome. And I'm sorry. Anyway, as far as today is concerned, we're just going to talk about, one story that particularly is like been a lightning rod this past week of how could you, or what is wrong with you, And then to top it off, we will get into Next Best Picture. That is a website that, is most known for, they review movies and they talk about movies, but they more so are known for being like I don't want to call it a Gen Z, because they're not like really Gen Z. They're older than we are, and we're not young. Well, we are, but to a certain, you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. They're like late 30s, early 40s, most of them anyway. But they're a new version, I guess you could say, of Gold Derby. Gold Derby is mostly known for predicting the odds at all of these award shows. Next Best Picture has dabbled in that. They have their podcast. They go to all the festivals. They're well known in this orbit. And they published a few months ago, or a few weeks, I'm not sure, a list of the 25 best movies of the 2020s. I'm pretty sure that if they had seen One Battle After Another, they might have put it on the list. So it's not going to be on that list. Mm-hmm. Only because One Battle After Another, I think, is, in my view, and I think I said this in the review last week, I think it's very much in line with The Brutalist, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, for being like these really interesting American commentaries. And I think speaking to certain aspects of our country, our way of life in this country, that are brutal, devastating, but above all, accurate in ways that we've not seen it been depicted on film in maybe ever, honestly. And I think we're going to be continuing to see works of these as, let's just say, our government gets a little bit more fashy, with one day after the other. If anyone cares, the president just illegally bulldozed a room in the White House. Just, if anyone cares, there's going to be a ballroom there, so I don't exaggerate it. This is so much worse than last time. He literally is breaking the law every single day in front of cameras. Mm-hmm. No one cares. Anywho, so let's just get straight into this, because there's a huge news story that kind of spread like wildfire, I should say. I want to remind people, of course, that when we record these podcasts, they're at the end of the days, and while I am a little bit more energetic than usual, my voice may not be 100%. You might hear it crack a little bit. I do talk for a living. Mm. No idea how unbelievably exhausting that is. Anywho, this is the thing. For years and years and years and years and years, never mind all the conversations that we have already long exacerbated and long established. Yes, movies are in a precarious situation. No, they're not dead. They're not going to go away. Maybe in some spots they may be more niche. Certain genres, perhaps, are going to be and have been more niche. We all know streaming has been the death of the popularity of movies. We know that this upcoming generation favors more so their apps like TikTok, or YouTube, or streamers more so than they do like actual stories. We know ultimately that movie executives, for the most part, are idiots and have, been, the authors of their own destruction. We know dumber still are the distributors and the companies and the movie studios who have been making disastrous decisions one after the other that have led them to this state of ruin where we are at, particularly with the Disney Corporation. We can, and we have for years now, and especially this last year, documented the many ways in which they have been the cause for the destruction of the brands, of all of their main brands: Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, Disney Animation. It is live action. It is literally in the gutter. Yes, they make money still, but their quality and their reputation is declining at a rate that I think 10 years ago would not have been thought of. And their decline, because they own up so much of the market share, is dragging everything else down. At the same time, of course, we have a failed government that does not at any point wish to make sure that the economy does not become an oligarchy, does not become a complete monopoly. I mean, we are at an oligarchy already, but I mean a complete monopoly where one company owns everything. There was a major news story this week. I should have mentioned that this is October 23rd, 2025. Earlier in the week, there was a major corporation that was down, and it just so happened that the corporation owned like 50 million websites of all different varieties. And they were down for hours and hours, and they just went dark. They could not work. And it affected me. I didn't even realize this, that some of the apps that I use in my profession were bought out by this corporation. And I had planned on an assignment, and guess what happened? I ended up with egg on my face when I was told, it's not working.
Was this on a Monday?
This is on a Monday, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's the thing.
Happened on Monday.
I don't work Amazon on Mondays, but when it came in today, they were telling me that the app that we use for the deliveries went down, so they just sent everyone home. And so, I mean, Amazon itself probably lost, millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars.
I mean, which is okay, because they use that amount of money to crush progressive candidates all over the country. So it's no skin off their teeth, quite frankly. It's more so bad for you guys. But that's the point ultimately. It's like real people's lives are being touched by the evils of corporations eating up each other in very just scary ways now. This should not have happened. It should not have gotten to this. At all. If we had a government that was, competent for one, which is seemingly impossible to do, whether it be a Republican or a Democratic presidency, they both have been woefully inept in preventing this disaster, where all of these companies are buying up each other, hundreds, thousands of people laid off, all after the other, all for what? For more you're consolidating everything. People are not gaining anything out of it. People's lives are being destroyed by it. And now, this last week, I've not paid any attention to it because I just feel it's depressing. David Zaslav's making his wish come true. 2 years ago, we were all saying, this bitch is only here to do as much damage as he can, to strip down the studio as much as he could, maybe get a few successes here until he is ready to sail right off into the sunset and sell it off to somebody else. And of course, what's happening? Now we have a horse race. Paramount wants to buy WB. Comcast Universal wants to buy WB. Netflix wants to buy WB. I shouldn't have to get any further in saying that any one of those options is disaster. Is disaster for everybody involved who likes movies, who maybe even wants to get into the world of movies. Forget it. It's just it's not possible to begin with how things stand now. But with this, let alone the layoffs that are about to come our way. By the way, this doesn't even get into the element with the Ellisons who own Paramount, who are going to enact a purge of any employees who are not conservative leaning, who are not Trump MAGA supporters. And they're going to use that as yet another arm of their power. Again, off on the side, I'm sure Trump is trying to get one of his allies to purchase TikTok too, to use that as well. Notice how all of this is intertwined. It's all entangled, and it's all happening at the same time. WB being bought out doesn't work for anybody involved, but it also makes no sense. They are the single most successful movie studio of 2025 by a historic margin. It has been the most legendary years, maybe in the entire 10 plus years that we've been covering movies, that any one studio, aside from Disney in 2019, which that was not as impressive because, they bought everything and it just so happens they were like these big movies, whatever. But WB's is more impressive because it was a string of original properties that they just were able to do, and they found their way and they found their success in doing so by being a movie studio that was prioritizing, hey, why don't we actually make movies instead of just making what Disney does? Which honestly, these days, if we're being honest, Disney's not making movies these days. They're just making I don't know, babysitting service infomercials where you just go, you watch it, and you never, ever, ever, ever care to think about what that was ever again, because quite frankly, they're so bad to begin with, but they're not designed to even stay with you. They're not really making movies. WB is. And the idea of them being absorbed by Netflix, who fucking hates theaters, who just now, I don't know why all of a sudden, maybe they're trying to make nice, just now in the last couple of weeks announced with that they made up with AMC theaters and that they're actually going to release K-pop Demon Hunters now, months after when they should have done so, literally. I mean, I'm sure K-pop will still do great, but I'm like, hey, you really should have struck when the iron was hot, like weeks and weeks and weeks ago. What were you doing there? And hopefully now, because of this newfound deal, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein and Ryan Johnson's what's the Knives Out 3, whatever it's called, Wake Up Dead Man. Hopefully now they're going to be played in a lot more theaters because of this. So thankfully Netflix made that arrangement. Thankfully, I don't know what took you so many years for that to happen. But really, you think Netflix, who is really trying at every turn to put movies out of business, you want them to be in charge of WB? And then also, that doesn't get into the whole physical media side of things. It's like, hey, what's going to happen with Netflix? Are they really going to keep that going? Like that's just, it would be a nightmare if Netflix in one scenario, and then in another instance, if Paramount absorbs it, well, you have the Allisons, who are just MAGA acolytes there that are going to purge. Honestly, it's like, why wouldn't the government step in to prevent these mergers? Mergers are not good for anybody but the CEOs of those companies. So many people's jobs are going to be deleted. Just this week, I believe there were some tech CEOs or whatever. They were just like, you know what? We could actually, with AI is going so well for us, pretty soon we're going to be able to eliminate so much of our workforce. They said this out loud in the open, and it's not a scandal. We're not having a national conversation about it. No politician is bringing awareness or attention to this. Massive swaths of the American population are going to be put on the street because the owner of their company is going to replace them with artificial intelligence. So really, ultimately, it benefits nobody for WB to be absorbed. If I were to have my way, I think it would make the most sense for Universal to buy Warner Brothers. I think that would be a match made in heaven, honestly. I would be all for it. Universal has their theme parks. Universal is also a great movie studio too. I think that would be the best of all outcomes. In a situation where I just can't believe this is happening. I just can't believe it. Like, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the powers that be are allowing this. And this is an acceleration of everything else that's going to happen. You're going to see less and less movies being made. You're going to get more and more months with dry spells of like, hey, why isn't there anything available to watch in theaters? Oh, and mind you, when it's time for the actors and the directors and the writers to re-up their contracts, I can't imagine the next time that happens, there won't be a strike because of how quickly they're moving. The companies and the studios are moving to use AI to replace them. Anywho, that's that. And I said I wasn't going to talk about that, but I'm sorry. That's just what happened. But that was the introduction to this next big thing, which is also ultimately, I think, in some ways entwined, because we're talking about movie executives. We're talking about the movie business, and we're talking about dumbass decisions being made. One of the many things that people have been talking about for years is what is wrong with Disney, specifically, well, about what part, all of it, but specifically, what is wrong with Disney? What is wrong with Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm? Why can't you make a fucking Star Wars movie? Where the hell are we going? You spend $4 billion on this. You made a great profit with those sequel films. Why can't you make a freaking movie? Some things you have to understand, my friends. The timing of certain things that, being unearthed quite frankly, can be very serendipitous and at other times quite maddening. I think when we look back on this last week or these last 2 weeks, it's pretty hilarious. And I think by maybe design, it was no accident that the very week that Disney's latest and not so greatest idea to reboot Tron with Jared Leto at its lead bombs disastrously so, and then we're told that they shot down a rather ingenious idea. And I got to tell you, I was a little surprised with certain people. Let me just tell you this, and this is going to be a little bit of a tangent. I'm so sorry. I thought we were all on the same page that the sequel trilogy didn't have anything of worth to mine. I thought we were all on the same page that the sequel trilogy of Star Wars didn't have any interesting original characters, right? That's what I was being told for years and years and years. All of a sudden, people are giving a shit about Kylo Ren or Ben Solo. And I'm like, gee, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it sure as hell sounded like you didn't give a fuck about any of these characters. And you bitched, whined, and moaned about that for years and years and years. Now, granted, a lot of that may have to do with the anger and disappointment of The Rise of Skywalker, which is understandable. If you are not aware, it has been revealed in the last week that Bob Iger personally shot down an idea that Kathleen Kennedy was on board with. And as Grace Randolph said, for once, it wasn't Kathleen's fault. Which is hilarious to just say out loud and just think about. So, we all were under the impression that Adam Driver ran for the hills after his contract was over with Star Wars. It turns out he actually has an affinity for the character. And he took it upon himself to recruit, wouldn't you know it, a storyteller, a filmmaker, Steven Soderbergh. And they together came up with an idea for a movie called The Hunt for Ben Solo that would take place after Episode 9. Which, by the way, it's funny how, Disney allows themselves to be pushed and swayed by, like, the loudest voices in the room with the wrong things, like with the whole, Bob Iger basically validating all the people who say go woke, go broke, right, from a year ago. If you just go on the internet, even at the time when Episode 9 came out, even within, hours, people were still like, okay, yeah, but we still want a project with Ben Solo. Mm-hmm. I don't care how you do it. We still want to see more of him. So, Bob Iger, I don't understand. Look, maybe it's giving him too much credit to call him a complicated person. I know for a fact it was too much credit it was too much to say, and he got too much credit for the successes of the 2010s. Clearly, the man has been revealed to only be able to do one thing. He has one trick up his sleeve. He's a one-trick pony, as they say. All he can do is buy up certain things, greenlight certain projects, and then the rest, that's all he can do. Mm-hmm. Sources say he was one of the people who saved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from cancellation at ABC. And if this is true, I will be eternally grateful for that. I'm not even going to lie. But at the same time, sources also say he's the one that killed the Clone Wars animated series. And apparently was not originally on board with the idea of having it come back on Disney Plus for a final revival season. Clearly also, for as much as we talk about Kevin Feige being kind of revealed to be the Wizard of Oz, right? Like, the Emperor has no clothes. I think the same has happened with Bob Iger. I feel like he kind of came back into the situation that he kind of created. We all kind of like skirted that by, like, yeah, at the time, Chapek was awful in many ways that you really couldn't count, but really, Chapek was operating under the playbook that Iger created in the company that Iger left him. And clearly what Iger had created was not meant to last. And Iger came back, and he's greenlit a few projects that have been, well, I mean, I guess from a money standpoint, okay, they're making money. But it only seems as if the years have gone past that the studios that Disney is in charge of shepherding have just continued to just go down, not just in quality, but just in as far as how, in reverence. People just don't really, even the way that people feel about Disney parks these days is just not what it was anymore. And there are a lot of reasons for that. So, with all of that being said, Disney and Marvel and Lucasfilm, not so much. Lucasfilm, I think, attempts to recruit filmmakers, and we should give them credit for that. But Marvel and Disney, for the most part, don't. They just want, either they get hacks, or they get people who maybe did one little project in their backyard and now they're a filmmaker, quote unquote. And they like to stick with those people. For instance, as we mentioned, this past Tron disaster, they got the same person that directed Pirates of the Caribbean 5 for them, and then also Maleficent 2. Hey, Bob Iger, idiot, how did that work out for you? Yeah, it made money, but does anyone who is a fan of Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, who is here going to defend Pirates of the Caribbean? Dead Men Tell No Who? Who remembers that movie? Like, and they'll see the same thing with this new Tron Ares, whatever. Even I forgot that even happened already. And then, of course, what happens, and this is also an example for why it's not just a Disney thing, but an overall movie executive thing. They're thinking about some studio, I think it's WB. I hope it's not. Maybe it's somebody else. They're thinking about, what a week for this to just pop out there, right? Let's have Jared Leto lead another franchise. Now let's have him lead a Pacific Rim reboot. Don't these people learn?
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop giving him franchises. We should be talking about whether or not he should even be allowed to be in another film. Much less lead a franchise. Like, clearly people don't want this. Anywho, it is really remarkable how kind of made for a movie this idea for The Hunt for Ben Solo is. You got Adam Driver on board. He was the originator of this. You got Steven Soderbergh on board. Kathleen Kennedy was on board. And Bob Iger crushed all of our dreams. But sure, let's look at all the other projects like he greenlit. Like Tron Ares. You would think, David, that at some point there might be a real reckoning happening with Bob Iger or with Disney. With I don't know, years and years and years of really embarrassing situations that were brought on by, in fairness, obviously dumb decisions. Obviously dumb decisions. I don't know if that ever will happen, but what is happening for sure is, and you can feel it, Disney's not what it once was.
Mm-hmm.
And WB's success this year, in large part, is because Disney has kind of like stumbled themselves and are rolling down the hill. And a huge part of that is, man, and I think the further removed we are from Fantastic Four coming out in theaters, the more, I guess, 2020 we have. That's just how it works, right? But I guess the more we can actually see that I don't think Fantastic Four is ever going to be a beloved film. I don't think it was, quite frankly, by those who watched it. But you can tell in the numbers that a lot of people have checked out, and not even a Fantastic Four movie could bring them back. It's a lot going on here, but as far as like Star Wars as a franchise, The Hunt for Ben Solo not only would have been a movie, which it's been 5+ years since the Star Wars movie has happened, but it would have continued on. It actually would have been an interesting territory because you're pushing forward. You're not staying in the same timeline. You have a filmmaker who would have been very missed opportunities upon missed opportunities. It's been really interesting to see this. I've been talking for half an hour. David, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on on the idea, and then also how you have seen people react to this decision. Go ahead.
I haven't seen that many reactions actually about this whole thing. Mostly with just what you've been sending. Oh, there were a couple that were kind of like missed opportunity. What the hell? I mean, at first for me, I was kind of like, but he died. I gotta, and I'm sure they would have thought of a way. And I at this point with the Star Wars franchise, I would have been like, yeah, whatever, I'll go with it. Why not? And so I would have been excited about it for sure. For one thing, Adam Driver, he's a really good actor. He doesn't have like a presence like I would say some other actors have, but he definitely takes the screen. He takes the stage and all that. And so I would have been curious as to see what they would have done with his character, especially because as much as we hated Rise of Skywalker, those last 15-20 minutes of him being Ben Solo was actually really fun. Like I almost wish we could redo it just to see that version of him throughout the entire trilogy. He was really, really good. And so you could have had a story here of, some guy looking for a path, possibly a new path, and maybe wishing to undo what he's done and all that. Personally, I would have still preferred he just been a villain in the end. And there was an interview with Adam Driver saying that was a possibility. That they were thinking about just making him straight up the villain till the end and all that, but that changed because people on the internet. So
yeah,
and I said that too in our audio commentary. I was like, I think in the third one they just want to make him a villain and all that. I think Luke knows that there's kind of no going back for him. He gave him one more chance, but that didn't take, and it would have been interesting. So. Yeah, in terms of the story, I would have really liked to see it. As to why it wasn't greenlit, yeah, it's just all dumb. Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and Kevin Feige, their job is just to make decisions. Say, all right, this person will work on this thing, and that's it. Like that's all they have to do. Kathleen Kennedy has had a long history of doing that and making some good decisions. She basically helped out Steven Spielberg, greenlit a lot of his movies and all that. She's always shown to have some good instincts. I'm sure there's some that were failures. I know that. I'm not counting Star Wars, not yet at least. Like before Star Wars, I'm sure there were some failures. But overall, though, she's made some good ones. I think what happened with The Last Jedi may have given herself some doubts, or maybe Bob Iger kind of wanted to push whatever idea she had away in terms of, and was more focusing on what fans were saying online, which is why I think we got Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and just every other.
And that's an interesting thing. We should say that Ahsoka, I'm not sure about Ahsoka, but The Mandalorian was adored by the Star Wars core base. Mm-hmm. Like that was a considerable win for Kathleen, that they produced something that the fans loved. Although if you listen to Red Spotlight, we think the fans are generally stupid and The Mandalorian is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I just genuinely...
But the thing, though...
if The Mandalorian is terrible, Ahsoka's even worse than terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the thing, though, is that, yes, Kathleen Kennedy approved those, but I put that more so on, what are their names? The ones...
Favreau and Filoni?
Yeah, Favreau and Filoni. Like, I do believe maybe either Iger or just them, or maybe it was Kathleen just kind of listening to the internet, what people were saying, and, pushing them forward on these projects to do whatever they want. It just...
I gotta say, look,
backfiring.
at least she approved Andor.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. She also approved Andor, and that seems to be one where she was like sort of alone in that situation. I mean, to be fair, we were also kind of like, Andor, really? That character? What the fuck is he?
Because we should note that the way that I think the idea of a show like Andor, and the idea that we thought when this was announced, clearly came out of an executive, and they had a very lame idea for it. And they just so happened to hire somebody who was like, well, that's stupid. Let's actually do something good.
Mm-hmm.
And he did, and they went with it. It's like, it ended up being that it was a great story to tell because of how Gilroy told the story. It's not at all what certain, let's just say, Disney executives intended for this to be. They just saw, hey, Rogue One's popular. We've got Diego Luna. Let's just do a show with Andor and with K2SO, and they're doing shit, and they're being cool, and that's it. That's what they thought the show was going to be. Then Tony Gilroy was like, no.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, despite all of that, she was, going straight forward with this. And so I kind of hope that kind of gave her a bit more confidence into, like, the decisions that she made. Because, again, her picking Rian Johnson for The Last Jedi, people's complaints, I would say the main thing is that there wasn't enough time to kind of flesh out why Luke became the way he was. Like, that's kind of the core of it. That's why they complain about, what did you do with the character and all that. I keep saying, like, the dude didn't really have much time. He had Luke Skywalker. He should have focused a lot on Luke Skywalker, but he had other characters to focus on, and he couldn't just push them away. And so I think he did the best he could with the situation. And, a lot of people on the internet disagreed with that. But ultimately, she did make a good decision with Rian Johnson and picking him, and I wish she would have picked him further. But again,
but to be fair, she did. I want to clarify. She did ask him to come back and do episode 9. He's the one that said, no, thank you.
Oh, okay.
So to be clear about that, because I remember that we covered this when it happened, when it was announced that J.J. Abrams was going to be the director of episode 9. Obviously, this was after Colin Trevorrow being fired. But when they announced J.J. was director, in the story and in the report, they did go to Rian Johnson first. And she asked him, do you want to come back and do this movie? And my understanding at the time, Rian declined primarily because he had a year to do it. That's no time to make a movie. And they couldn't get around it, not because Kathleen Kennedy needed the movie to be out in 2019. Bob Iger demanded the movie be out December 2019. So perhaps if they were willing to wait a few years, we could have had Rian Johnson do episode 9. And I would also imagine if this was, let's just say 2018, I want to say Brian was probably underway with Knives Out, getting that rolling out. I don't know if he would have had the time even, let's just say. Maybe he probably would have done so if they were willing to wait until after Knives Out was done. And then maybe they could have made the movie.
Okay.
But they weren't willing to do that. And clearly that was a decision that was fatal for everybody involved. The Rise of Skywalker is such a blemish on really everybody's name that's involved in that project. It's really a blemish on all their careers. Every single one of them. From the writers, the directors, the producers, even the actors. Even though the actors, quite frankly, the actors are the most blameless. I don't ever want to blame an actor for a movie being bad, especially when they're, legitimately doing great. Like Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver they're giving great performances, but you almost can't tell because everything else is so bad in that movie. They're trying to, the whole movie is on their backs and they can't quite do it because J.J. Abrams shits the bed so hard. So embarrassingly hard. So, yeah, I just think it's ultimately pretty stupid. Like, there was an opportunity to do more with a popular character like Kylo Ren, and obviously the hunt for Ben Solo would have involved Rey one way or the other. It's really kind of malpractice when you think about it, how Disney just cannot commit. Like, they went so hard, ride or die, on okay, the original movies were the original movies. We want to forge our own path, and we want to make sure that people love our new characters. Well, I guess all that went out the window when we had a bunch of conservative right-wing hacks like Geeks and Gamers go up on there and manipulate so many people because of a few things that the movie was unsuccessful because it disrespected the franchise, it disrespected the lore, it was woke, it was blah, 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 blah. And I guess all that went out the window. And a movie like The Hunt for Ben Solo, if it had been made, would have been exactly what Star Wars needs right now, what Disney needs right now. And yet, they can't bring themselves to actually commit to doing good ideas. And that's kind of the state where we are. So, what do you even say? What do you even say to any of this? I don't, and I won't. And we got to move on. Unless you have any final thoughts on this, if we're ready to go on to the next thing.
No.
I did want to share, last time we did, or the last couple of weeks, we did our, for the collector's edition episode of Physical Media. I haven't gotten much new, but there was just a flash sale, so I was able to get, for the price of two Criterion movies. One was All of Us Strangers, which I'm not sure many of you have seen yet. It came out from 2023. It has Claire Foy, Jamie Bell. It has, oh my god, I'm forgetting. It has oh my god, I'm embarrassed. I'm blanking on their names. Who's the actor that's the Gladiator in Gladiator 2 and After Sun? Paul Mescal.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Mescal, and there's also Andrew Scott, who is Andrew Scott, who so Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal. Boy, I had a Peter moment there. I couldn't think of a name. That's never happens. Because Peter's the worst at remembering names, and he will attest to this himself. But yeah, I was able to get that, and I also got Flow, the animated movie from last year, also on Criterion, which is I think also a must watch. Have you seen Flow yet?
No.
You should watch it. It's basically watching almost a similar experience to having I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is entirely without a single word of dialogue. It's a really interesting experience. I saw Shot Factory or Script Factory, I don't know, they had a sale, and they had the 4K version of The Holdovers for like $17.99. I was like, I'm getting that. I don't have that one yet. So yeah, there's that. And I just got this dropped off. Ordered it on Groove. This is The Bride of Frankenstein. This is the 4K. I think this is the 90th anniversary release, which is this year.
Dang.
So we have that right there. Can't wait to see that, of course, for the Halloween season that we have. Halloween's already next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible to think about. But yeah, always nice to have that. Anywho, let's go ahead. We're going to use this now to transition into what we're going to talk about last today. It might be a shorter podcast than usual, but that's okay. We can live with shorter podcasts, right? As I mentioned earlier, the next best picture, 25 best films of 2020 so far. This was published August 8th, so a couple months ago. This is not one person. I want to be clear. This is, I think, all of their staff writers that came together. So we have different voices, different opinions, but this is how they open their article. The 2020s have been a rather unusual decade, to say the least. Yeah, we can all attest to that, can't we? For a fifth of the time, we were locked inside, quarantined for fear of the effects of COVID. The 4 years after have found us trying to slowly get back to a place of normalcy, while the world socially and politically feels as uneven as it ever has felt. It is in these uncertainties that we cling to our viruses and especially our vices to get us through our troubling times. And for many, that includes escaping into the world of cinema. Not only has the film industry dealt with its fair share of setbacks from the pandemic, but it has also faced multiple industry strikes, evolving demands from audiences around the world, and the threat of AI and streaming services knocking out the theatrical model, as well as physical media at home. Yet every time faced with adversity, a film or two or 10 come along and restore faith in the process, having us proclaiming from the rooftops that cinema is back, and assuring ourselves that this art form will continue to thrive as long as we seek the bold, imaginative projects that made us fall in love with movies in the first place. Which that basically sums up my first, I think, 15-minute rant of the show before we talked about the hunt for Ben Solo and everything, so that's funny. With this in mind, the Awards Watch staff... Oh, wait, the Awards Watch. Well, I guess this is on... Oh, my apologies. Oops. This is not Next Best Picture. This is Awards Watch, which is basically the same thing, but a different, like group. Sorry. I mean, they're all the same friends, but okay. With this in mind, the Awards Watch staff have come back again to count down what they think are the 25 best films of the decade so far, 2020 to 2024. Featured on this list are the films from some of the biggest names in film right now, making their biggest and boldest statements of their careers. The list features some of the best directional debuts of the century, but also includes films from masters of their craft that have been making movies for close to 6 decades, showcasing that they still are able to captivate us in the latter parts of their careers. Massive blockbusters go side by side with personal, emotional, independent films, as the list showcases the range of cinema released in the last 5 years, as well as where the collective taste of the team has gravitated to over the course of this half-decade. I don't know, David, have you already taken a peek at this list?
I haven't.
Okay, what do you... That's great, actually. This actually works out. What would you think would for sure make an appearance on this list? Or maybe the question would be, what would you think of if you were asked to make a list like this?
I mean, for sure, Dune. The first one's a... Oh, I hope RRR is in here. Hell yeah. Wild Robot, Batman, Fablemans. Oh. Nightmare Alley? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
For sure. Let's see. Curious about 2020 itself, if any.
If any, right?
Mm-hmm. I doubt they're going to put any documentaries in there, huh?
Probably not.
Yeah, I would really like to see the Bee Gees one in that.
That was a great documentary for those who haven't seen it. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart is a really world-class documentary. One of the best I've ever seen, for sure. I feel like I have taken a peek. Some that should be on this list, and I think with enough time will be. Although it's hard. I mean, picking 25 movies, right? That's not easy for 4 or 5 years, actually. But I think one that's getting a lot of resonance, and I think I was happy to see it manifest with. We recently, I'm embarrassed to say, but we recently did our top 10 of 2023. You know, in the last couple of weeks. But Perfect Days ended up like appearing on all of our lists, and I just think that's a movie that's going to continue to gain resonance as the years go by for sure. It has really a lot in there, and you really wouldn't think of it. Maybe if you watch it for the first time, you were like, okay, well, why would this be one of the best movies? And like, keep watching it. Keep watching it. I think you'll get something out of that movie for sure. I would think movies like The Brutalist would be on here. Maybe Everything Everywhere All at Once. Probably. But if I were to make a case for some movies, that I think would fall into here, I think it kind of gets dismissed because it's animation, but I really do feel like Across the Spider-Verse is the definition of a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
I like that should be recognized, and I can't believe it wasn't. I'm sure some others will come to mind as we see.
Ooh.
Yes.
Bo Burnham's Inside. I would actually really like that one. I feel like that's for sure not in anyone else's.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that would work.
So they actually here, this is interesting. I didn't realize this myself, but they released before they got into the actual. And by the way, the people who made contributions: Ryan McQuaid, Eric Anderson, Sophia Cinemaiello, Cody Derricks, Jay Ledbetter, Dan Bayer, Karen Peterson, Mark Johnson, Trace Savoir, Josh Parham, and Griffin Schiller. They're the people who made contributions to these entries. But I want to say we had a couple of movies that they put as honorable mentions. I didn't read this. So they put here, I think they put them in alphabetical order. Here are all the films that they released that they identify as honorable mentions, which I think is actually pretty cool because I see a lot of movies that I love personally. Mm-hmm. Here are the movies that they include as honorable mentions. All Dirt Roads, Taste of Salt. I do not know what that is. I'm sorry. I never heard of that movie. That's one I don't know, but cool. Maybe if anyone's listening, they might take this and like, hey, I want to look up what that movie is. Okay. All Quiet on the Western Front. And we're done. Anyway, thank you all for tuning into our show tonight. We will see you next week if we're... Did you see this movie?
I did not. But if
okay.
I did, I would rather watch the original one.
Yes, and I feel like I should too. I haven't seen the original. I've only seen this one from 2022. I don't... No. This one didn't do it for me. Mm-hmm. But what did do it for me was this next one, Anatomy of a Fall. Genuinely, like, great. This should definitely be here. Also, Anora. I don't know if you've seen Anora, but it is hysterical and also kind of brutal. It's the same filmmaker, Sean Baker, who did the Florida Project. We that won Best Picture earlier this year, as a matter of fact. Asteroid City is interesting. People love that movie. Even Peter loves that movie. It's by Wes Anderson. I think there are some cool things about Asteroid City, but that's just not one that really clicked with me. But it's a really interesting one. But, okay, this next one, I will ride or die all day long for this one. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. Are you kidding me? That was, I think maybe even still, the comedy of the decade. And I don't think next to anybody saw it because it came out during COVID and it just went straight to streaming. But this was such a hysterical movie. It is so ridiculous. It had a genuinely amazing comedic performance by Janie Dornan in the movie. Like, and you wouldn't have expected it. But come on. And I'm glad that this was mentioned. Benedetta, which I do not know. I've heard of it, haven't seen it. There's Crimes of the Future. Again, heard of it, haven't seen it. Da 5 Bloods. I have seen it. That is Spike Lee's film. And it also features, I want to say, Chadwick Boseman, one of Chadwick Boseman's final performances. And I really enjoyed that movie when it came out. I think I watched it back in COVID. That also, to be clear, you had asked, do we see any from 2020? That was a 2020 release. The Five Bloods right there. Dahomey, do not know. Dune, honorable mention. Dune, okay. Ferrari, which is interesting. That was a Michael Mann movie that came out, I think, 2 years ago with Adam Driver. Didn't see it. Hard Truths, also didn't see. Hundreds of Beavers. Great mention right there. And I'm sure Peter is going to include this in his top 10 of 2024 when we do that show. It is really hard, David, to describe what this movie is. I think we talked about this before when we reviewed it last year, but it is the definition of a movie that was made in somebody's garage. And yet it is so special. And I saw this with a live audience at the Reading Cinemas in San Diego that is now closed, unfortunately, in the Claremont area. That was the final movie I saw in that theater, and what a way to go out. People came to that theater because it was the only one in the entire city that was playing that movie, and they loved it. People roaring with laughter. Definitely, I think, a key film to include here. Maestro. Did you see that movie?
No, but that's the one with the composer, right?
That's Mr. Bradley Cooper directing and acting. That's, I guess you could call it a biopic, although it doesn't really act like one. Leonard Bernstein, I think, Leonard Bernstein is the composer that Bradley Cooper plays in it. It is a beautiful movie to look at. Bradley Cooper has the talent of a director for sure. I just don't think it really amounted to much, if anything. It didn't really cause that much interest, you know? I think it's definitely interesting. But it's an interesting movie to talk about. Go ahead, David.
The way you were describing it, I was getting like Blonde vibes. The one with Ana de Armas playing.
I'm sure it's better than Blonde.
Okay.
I'm sure it's better. I think Blonde, verged on offensive. I didn't watch that movie. I don't know if did you watch Blonde?
I did watch it.
I know Kyle was offended by it.
Yeah,
a lot of people were offended by the movie.
Yeah, the more I didn't know much about the real person and all that, but the more
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe. But the more I found out about it, the more I was kind of like, can you even call this a biopic of any sort?
Yeah, people were angry at that movie for sure. Maestro is not on the level of it. I just feel like there are sequences in Maestro where you can just tell, look, Bradley Cooper is crushing it, but man, he's really working for that Oscar, and maybe he's working too well. I think is what people walk away from it. But it's a gorgeous film to look at, I will say. Then there's Mank, which was from 2020. It was released on Netflix. This was directed by David Fincher, and it starred Gary Oldman as Mankiewicz, who ended up being one of the screenwriters for Citizen Kane. And it also featured a cameo by Bill Nye the Science Guy, which is really interesting because I actually showed Bill Nye today, which is like, oh, interesting timing of it. But I think Mank genuinely is underrated in David Fincher's filmography. I like all of David Fincher's work. People love The Killer, which you put on your list from 2023, and I can see totally why. But Mank's more up my speed. Maybe because it's period. This is the 1940s. It's a really good. I feel like Citizen Kane is such a big movie. And there's a lot of supplementary things out there that I think you can pair with it to help you kind of get a better sense of where the world was. You can watch the last unfinished movie by Orson Welles that Peter Bogdanovich, a few years before he passed away, was finally able to put it all together. It was released on Netflix in 2018 called The Other Side of the Wind. If you watch that with Citizen Kane, a lot of it is supposed to be basically Orson Welles, thoughts in the last years of his life and how he felt his career had gone. And then if you watch the documentary that they made with The Other Side of the Wind called They'll Love Me When I'm Dead, that's also another companion watch. But then also there is Mank, because Mank features, Orson Welles maybe is the character, actor, whatever, is in this movie for like maybe a minute. I don't know. But it has a lot to do with the world at the time that Citizen Kane was written and it was filmed, and I think it enriches the experience. So if you're ever somebody that says, "Oh, I've seen Citizen Kane and I don't understand why that movie is regarded as one of the best ever made." Well, first of all, when people say it's the best movie ever made, they're talking about at the time, because it created all these different, it basically created a modern language for how cinema can be represented on the screen, and how Orson Welles literally revolutionized the film industry with how he was able to place a camera, or how he was able to, even the whole, I think, story, the way that he plotted out the story in that movie was a whole new concept. So it really revolutionized the whole game. And also, I think ultimately for me, why do I buy into that idea? Well, I mean, it's a story about, who are we? Do we really know who we are? Do we know ourselves? Citizen Kane's it's a sad movie, really. It's like this guy that could have had a chance for happiness, but he was given away to a rich estate, thinking that the parents thinking that, well, if we give him a life of riches that we can't, by just giving him away, maybe he will live a far better life. And I think ultimately Citizen Kane is a movie about, like, money cannot buy you happiness. I don't know if you ever seen the movie, David?
No.
Citizen Kane? But it's I think it's definitely, if you ever do take it upon yourself to watch that movie, I highly recommend also watching these other three to kind of like really get the most out of it. Because I feel like if you watch that movie and you have these sky high expectations, you're going to think to yourself, what are people talking about? And then also Roger Ebert has an amazing audio commentary on Citizen Kane. You need to listen to it. So like, you really have to dedicate, I would say, a good 2 weeks of your time if you wanted to really get into Citizen Kane, because it is, I think, a great experience. Anyway, enough about that. Mank, I think, is generally underrated, and I think people should go watch that one. The next one on this list, Minari, which starred Steven Yeun, which is great. He's great in everything. This is good. I just didn't, I don't know. I didn't connect with it all that much, which is fair. But good. People do love this one. No Other Land, which I'm not overly familiar with, but I am with this one, which is here another one from 2020, Nomadland, by Chloe Zhao. Let me know, by the way, as we go through these, David, if you've seen these. I don't want to keep asking you, like, hey, have you seen this one? Have you?
Yeah.
Did you watch Nomadland?
No.
Okay, this one was different. And many times it felt like it wasn't even a movie, but it was definitely one to experience. Okay, Nomadland, Nosferatu. Yes, I just rewatched Nosferatu the other week. Awesome. I loved it.
No, yeah.
I put the Blu-ray in, and I didn't realize it was playing I guess the extended version. So there were some, there weren't any new scenes. It just so happens that some of the scenes were longer. There was some dialogue that was cut out. So one of my favorite scenes in Nosferatu, when Nicholas Hoult is by the fire and he first gets a look at the glimpse of Count Orlok. There's a couple of lines that were taken out from that exchange, and I'm like, I'm creeped out. This is so good. Nosferatu is genuinely amazing, and I'm glad that it's already on this list. Passages, really interesting international film. I can't say much more about it because it gets a little bit graphic, but we'll leave it there. Pig. Oh yes, this is a good one. Nicolas Cage. I gotta tell you, I think it was a mistake to not. First of all, I don't even think Nicolas Cage was nominated for an Oscar, but I think he really should have won Best Actor that year. For Pig. I mean, what a tour de force. And boy, does that movie have a lot to say there. Priscilla, I haven't seen Priscilla. I heard it was nice, but I don't know. Queer, well, I mean, if you if you want to see Queers, I got like 2 copies of the movie. Just forget the damn 4K. So of course we all know what I feel about that one. But I'm glad that it was mentioned here. Luca Guadagnino, I think genuinely his like modern day masterpiece. Just great. Spencer,
It's good.
come on.
I wish I was on the list, honestly.
Just because I know.
Of Kristen Stewart's performance. Like, she was really killing it.
Yeah. The Boy and the Heron, well, Miyazaki, I love it. The Eternal Daughter, don't know that one, but The Holdovers, come on, that's for sure going to be one of these movies that's going to be remembered. The Iron Claw, good to see that movie not being, lost to the dust of time. That one, I believe we have discussed. I know you haven't seen it, and we've also said, I've warned you specifically, watch out. I don't think I'll ever watch this movie ever again in my life.
Yeah.
Because it is brutally depressing. I'll tell you this. I think I would watch Schindler's List 10 more times before I watch The Iron Claw. And The Iron Claw it's not necessarily on paper more depressing. I mean, Schindler's List is the Holocaust. But with The Iron Claw, there's just tragedy after tragedy that happens, and it just makes you feel like shit in a way that's just like, well, this is just awful. And yes, Schindler's List is that too, but Schindler's List also ends with like this hope for humanity and for the future. There's more things pulling it together. But anyway, Iron Claw. The Killer. There you are. Another Fincher movie on this list, Killer. And The Last Duel by Ridley Scott. One of the great Ridley Scott films from these last 20 years. The Nest, not familiar with. The Room Next Door, not familiar with. The Taste of Things, I am, but have not seen. Top Gun Maverick, we've all seen. It's a great movie.
Surprised it's not on the
and
list.
Trap. I know. And Trap, is that the one by
is it M. Night?
Shyamalan?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's M. Night. Interesting. That's an interesting dark horse. Well, I mean, and I think any M. Night movie to put on a list like this would be a dark horse, but cool. Interesting. I'm already out of breath and we haven't even gone through this. Okay. Yeah, okay. So 25 Barbie.
That makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, for sure. Definitely navigates themes of patriarchy, feminism, and unrealized dreams while draped in delicious candy-colored production and costume design. There are nods to forgotten history, like the creepy, pregnant, happy family Midge and super sugar daddy Ken. And then, of course, there are iconic outfits, mansions, and dream cars. Combining Barbieland with the real life and end of her rope mom, Gloria, played by America Ferrera. The film, a crucial movement and rallying cry that was also wildly entertaining and rewatchable. And if it wasn't enough, it would eventually deliver the greatest musical performance in the Academy Award history. That was an amazing... We don't talk about enough, though. That was a genuinely amazing performance. Like, and maybe it was because we have been so accustomed to just like dog shit performances, but that Ryan Gosling performance of I'm Just Ken at the Oscars, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. And not for nothing, the Wicked performance from earlier this year with Cynthia and Ariana crushed it. They crushed it. I mean, that was a great medley there. Next, a movie you haven't seen, I know this, Challengers. Sweat dripping on the lens. Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist in a sauna. Balls flying at my nose. Oh my god. Oh god. Sam. I cannot pronounce his name. Sayambu Mukipram is our greatest cinematographer. Luca Guadagnino knows how to eke out sex and sensuality maybe better than anyone, sometimes making us think that we're seeing more than we are because he's tapped into our imagination titillation so well that we're filling in the gaps ourselves. There's no actual sex in Challengers, which, by the way, may surprise people who haven't seen the movie. But yes, there is no actual sex in Challengers. Horniness is the seduction. Tennis is the sex. This movie is crazy, sexy, cool. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross keep it throbbing. Oh my god, whoever wrote this is hilarious. Makes me want to be a churro real bad. Oh my god. Doubles. Oh my god. if you know this movie, you would get what he's talking about, because there's a scene where I'm sure you've seen the clip where what was it? Mike Weiss he's eating a churro and he has it out, and then Josh O'Connor, who's like right in front of him, just like leans in and takes a bite out of the churro. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, but David, you got to see this movie. I don't know what you're waiting for. You need to see this movie.
I'm gonna be getting a new TV soon.
Okay.
Big, and I'm gonna be binge watching a lot of stuff. So
good. Because I mean, there's a lot of these we have on our shared Voodoo lockers. So it's like you could see it. Anyway, at the end of the day, we want to see boys kiss, and Zendaya just wants to watch some good fucking tennis. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. 23, Past Lives, which, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Many of us have spent time pondering our choices, musing about what might have been from the job offer accepted to college not chosen. No matter how well things turn out, it's normal to wonder where we could have ended up instead. Isn't Past Lives such a special movie? Like, this is definitely one to include, because it's just so, I don't know if spiritual is the right way of saying it, but it's just, I don't know. It's the kind of movie that when you're watching it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm watching a movie like this. Mm-hmm. This is so, not just cool, but it's just like riveting. I guess in a soulful way, if that makes any sense. Okay. The next one, which I also recommend you see, because this is also pretty fucked up and twisted. I Saw the TV Glow. What scares you? What really scares you? I Saw the TV Glow brushes past typical sources of fear, like knife-wielding slashers and blood-sucking creatures, to hone in on something much more terrifying: the existential worry that we may not be living the life we should. Through Owen, Schonenbrunn, the filmmaker, explores the idea of identity and how formative events from a young age can set an immovable mark on one's soul. Owen can't face reality of their entire personhood. As brilliantly depicted and personified, Owen's stifling of their own identity leads to a life scarier than any horror movie. Yeah, this was I Saw the TV Glow is a great movie. It's a horror movie. Not in the way that you think it would be. It's not scary necessarily how it was saying here, but it's about this person who's just trapped in an existence that's not their true self. And it is devastating to watch. Really kind of horrifying. And it very much, to my knowledge, if you want to view it this way, is the best film made yet that I think can make normies. Well, I shouldn't say normies, because that would make trans people not normal, and I don't want to have that insinuation out there. People who either have a hard time understanding the identity of the trans community, or even those who are allies of the trans community but don't know what that's like themselves. If you watch this movie, I think you get something valuable out of it, which is empathy, right? Which is like, oh, this is what it's like for you? Holy fuck. It's scary good, this movie. But it's also, I think, definitely one worth a watch if people haven't seen this one. It's really, really good. Next is The Brutalist. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. The American Dream is dead, or was there ever such a thing? This is one of the many things that is found at the heart of, Brady Corbet's historical epic. Alongside the idea of wrestling with one's religion, the relationship to the art they are creating, and the dangers of trusting those who don't know. To me, David, one of the scenes that replays a lot in my head since I've watched this movie, it's the end of the film. And what we're supposed to walk away with when that daughter is kind of like speaking on behalf, or I guess that niece is speaking on behalf of her uncle Laszlo. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're meant to be like, I think, wrestling with the idea. I'm not sure if we're ever going to get a real answer. It's like, was she co-opting that message? Or like, does Laszlo really feel this way? ultimately, I think we all know it's a commentary on how really once a filmmaker puts a story out there, it doesn't really belong to them anymore, and that other people can take it and say what they want about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really interesting. It says here, at the same time, Courbet is also using the Brutalist as a meta commentary about about his industry, how hard it is to make a film like this without sacrificing multiple pieces of yourself and your final film. It's daunting, fearless filmmaking made on a fraction of the epics of the past and the present, with an incredible lead performance by Brody. I probably think this should have won Best Picture. That's just me. I mean, if Dune 2 wasn't an option, it probably would be this one, you know? I do think, though, Dune 2 also has things to say about the dangers of religious fundamentalism. Maybe better than any movie I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know?
After watching it, I don't know, the fourth time, like, it was hitting me hard. And that ending.
Yes! Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Number 20 is a movie I'm not very familiar with. It's called Petite Mon Mon.
Mm-hmm. No idea what that is.
I believe it's the same. Maybe Peter might know, but it's the same person responsible for The Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Really interesting. But that's that. Number 19, The Green Knight. Did you ever watch The Green Knight?
Yeah.
David Lowery?
I did.
What do you think about this movie?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Visually very nice, but the story was just fairly simple of, like, you know, what I guess you could say what it means to be a knight, the nobleness of it, and all that. It was really interesting. I do want to, like, rewatch it one day. I think I saw
for sure.
Was it like a Criterion collection of it on Barnes and Noble or something? And, like, I was just kind of like, dang, I kind of want to rewatch it a bit. I don't know, because there were some weird moments to it that I'm like, what the fuck? But yeah, it was good.
Here's an interesting part. What elevates The Green Knight from yet another fantasy retelling of Arthurian lore to a touchstone of 2020's cinema is its willingness to interrogate the very foundation of legend. Lowry rewrites Gawain's path not as a celebration of knightly virtue, but as a cautionary tale about ego, legacy, and male privilege. Gawain starts this story as a lecherous, snotty, arrogant punk, to a point where an audience would lack investment in his character. Patel's casting at least places all the character's unlikable traits under a charismatic and agreeable facade, ensuring that we don't loathe Gawain, and at least we want to see him attempt to be better. That's the central journey of the film, and the juxtaposition between how much we love Dev Patel and dislike Gawain's demeanor is essential in allowing us to believe. When he does eventually realize what he's been chasing is something wicked and selfish, and ironically, something that Gawain doesn't even truly desire. And when he finds the courage to truly face the knight and allow him the opportunity to strike Gawain down if he wishes, fulfilling the agreement he made on behalf of his king, that he has earned this discovery. And so, when the Green Knight praises Gawain, the latter having found his dignity and bravery, therefore truly completing the game in the way that the Green Knight is desired, feels earned, and it comes as a relief to the audience rather than an injustice. And I really do think that that's the part that makes this movie special and memorable. It's like, this is not just another retelling of, like, oh, King Arthur, and we're going to make it an action movie. No, this is something that was designed to do something a lot more interesting. And I think this is the part that really makes this movie click. Number 18 is a film that we all know and well. Your own sister went and toured the set of this movie. At number 18, The Banshees of Inisherin. Directed by Martin McDonagh, a quietly powerful film about friendship that suddenly falls apart and the quiet heartbreak that follows. Colin Farrell gives one of his best performances as Podrick, a kind and simple man who's blindsided when his friend Colm, played by Brendan Gleeson, abruptly cuts him off. The relationship drives the story, and the emotional weight of its suddenness is felt in every scene. Barry Keoghan brings a strange, sad charm to Dominic, while Kerry Condon's Shaban feels like the only one truly grounded, carrying her own quiet frustrations. McDonough's writing walks a fine line between darkly funny and deeply sad, and the way he captures the small, windswept island makes the setting feel as lonely as the people in it. The music and visuals are understated but perfectly matched to the mood. Yeah, this is a pretty this is a no-brainer, right? Like, this is definitely one you want to include. It's just it's also just one of these movies that just like touches you and stays with you.
No, yeah, for sure.
Maybe even gets under your skin too.
I mean, it has like, there's a lot of stuff with this movie. It's really funny. It's really emotional. And just, I don't know. I was just entertained throughout the whole thing. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many moments of it. Jesus. It was a calm Brandon Gleeson who's giving a confession, and the priest was basically like, saying to Calm, have you been having impure thoughts about men? And then Calm throws it back at him. Have you been having impure thoughts about men? And then it's like, I have not been having impure thoughts about men. And then he gets yelled out of a damn confession booth. I don't know what they're called, but like, okay. It's just funny stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's a hilarious film, dark movie, obviously, but I think it's also one of those that just, I think it was perfectly described right there about, a friendship falling apart. Yeah. Number 17, After Yang. I do not know much about this one. Do you?
No.
Okay. How about number 16, The Worst Person in the World?
No. Dang.
This is one that people loved back, I want to say, in 2021. I haven't seen it. I do want to see it, though. Decision to Leave. This one I did see. It's a really interesting movie. I don't know what I even can say, though, because there's just a lot of layers to it, though. But that's definitely one. Let me see here. A stylish neo-noir, okay, by South Korean director Park Chan-wook, is a distant degree of cerebrally fervent that it slots directly in with some of the more brutal entries. Yeah, no, you need to watch it. I'm not going to say more about this one. First Cow. Also, don't know too much about this one. 13, Licorice Pizza. Paul Thomas Anderson. What do I say? I think this film is, obviously, I mean, it's a great movie. I own it. PTA. Gary Valentine is a self-anointed showman, a child actor, and an entrepreneur who moves to the world with a sort of optimism that only a 15-year-old could have. After meeting his high school picture day, 20-something Alana isn't quite sure why she agreed to meet Gary for dinner at his local haunt, Tail of a Cock. Alana lacks the joie de vivre that Gary possesses and is instead quite listless, working a job that she hates, living at home with her parents and two older sisters. Though the equal parts boredom and insecurity, Alana finds a place in Gary's world, accompanying him as a chaperone to a TV guest spot, securing an audition with a casting agent, and assisting with his burgeoning, so he hopes, a waterbed business. But through it all, Anderson smartly depicts the stupidity and childishness of men, specifically the danger of their hubris, violence, and carelessness, and arrested development. This is a movie that takes place in the 70s, in case that wasn't clear. So, it definitely is an interesting watch. And number 12, well, this is really what we're here to talk about, aren't we? The Fabelmans. I had the chance, I just was feeling, yeah, let's watch this movie again. I haven't seen it in a minute. Doesn't get old. I think I've watched Fabelmans like 3 times this week. Doesn't get old. I love this movie. I watched it on the disc. It looks so good on the 4K. But it's just one that just is replaying in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Some artists create to share their perspective with the world. Some do it to try and change the world, and some do it because they have no other choice. With The Fabelmans, Steven Spielberg reveals the origins of his creative process, beckoning viewers into his mind and all the wonderful, painful paths that lie within. And although this is an autobiographical story with some of the on-screen artistic liberties, it's far from self-indulgent. In fact, Spielberg's lifting of the veil on the family dramas that shaped both his youth and his future adulthood is so painfully honest. It's difficult to fully comprehend without feeling overwhelmed with emotion. After all, it can't have been easy for Spielberg to, say, capture a line as truthfully raw as, you don't owe anyone your life, not even me, coming from the mouth of the on-screen version of his own mother. Spielberg, and strong contender for the title of the greatest living writer, Tony Kushner, crafted a screenplay that takes the highly personal story that served as their inspiration and somehow magicked it into a stunning piece that reverberates outward from the family at its center, impacting all who watch it. The film's success can also be partly attributed to the stunning breakthrough performance of Gabriel LaBelle as Sammy Fabelman, the proxy Spielberg. He plays our protagonist as headstrong, stubborn, and drawn to the creative process like a self-aware moth to flame. Through him, Spielberg offers an explainer for what compels him and why. And one of the more incredible accomplishments of The Fabelmans is how it retroactively colors all of Spielberg's films that came before. Just try and watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, or even something as comparatively inconsequential as Hook without thinking about the story of Sammy Fabelman and the genius filmmaker that he represents. The Fabelmans is a lot of things, and I think it speaks to a lot of different film fans. It's really hard if you're a film fan not to like this movie, because a lot of it is just, a good filmmaker making movies, and that is a lot of the entertainment of this movie. But there's a lot of layers happening here, and I think the more I watch this movie, the more I think the better it gets, and how everything is so well intertwined with each other. I know that there are some who would say, well, the movie works better when it's just the film set pieces and not so much the family stuff, and I'm like, no, it's all interlinked. It's all working with each other. It's like, it's so good. And I will say, this past week I did watch Fabelmans, as I mentioned, and then for the first time, I wanted to see what it would feel like. I played the documentary Spielberg from 2017 after this. So you got to keep in mind that when they made that documentary, The Fabelmans was not something in anybody's mind. But it's really, I think, a great companion piece. So here's what you can do. If you want to do a Spielberg watch, ladies and gents, watch The Fabelmans first. Then watch the documentary, because you know a lot of these movies that he made already. Then go back to the very beginning and watch everything all the way back to The Fabelmans again. And I think it's going to be a really interesting cycle of sorts to see it. But even if you just want to know the story of Spielberg, if you're watching The Fabelmans and then you go directly into the Spielberg documentary, it's like watching part 2 of The Fabelmans, because you're actually seeing the real Sammy Fabelman, Steven Spielberg, change the industry he was trying to break into. It's a really great experience watching those back and forth. And if you have the time, I would recommend that. And I also do feel this movie, look, I'm just going to say it. I was there when it came out, and I saw some people react kind of weirdly about this movie, all kinds of ways. But I think this is going to get, and already has, been getting a reappraisal. It's only been, I cannot believe it's going to be 3 years next month that it's been out. It's crazy. But it's a genuinely great movie. And I just can't get enough. And I really do wish Spielberg would have Tony Kushner write all his movies. I want to say this is Steven Spielberg's first writing credit since Poltergeist. long time ago. But if you don't know, Tony Kushner also actually wrote the screenplays for other Spielberg films like Munich, Lincoln, and West Side Story. So I don't know what Spielberg's thinking, but I would have Tony Kushner literally for every project that I'm doing for the rest of my life. That's just me. Anyway, from one legend to the next. Number 11, Killers of the Flower Moon. Of course. A 209-minute stranglehold of a movie, relentlessly dragging the viewer through the mud of a prejudicial murder set in an era so regularly romanticized in American cinema. It is also the collaboration of many of the most legendary talents in the history of the medium. Director Martin Scorsese, editor Thelma Schoonmaker, production designer Jack Fisk, screenwriter Eric Roth, lead Leonardo DiCaprio and co-star Robert De Niro, among others, and that doesn't even speak about the brilliance of the film's secret weapon, Lily Gladstone. But any practical standard, paying $200 million for a difficult, thorny Martin Scorsese film about the Osage murders doesn't seem financially prudent. But what resulted was an artistic triumph. The movie feels limitless. The visuals, the design, feeling like they extend for miles after the screen ends. Fisk's world feels plucked out of time and large in ways that contemporary films rarely feel large. It's also an extension of what one could call Scorsese's reassessment era. Marty has an inherent ability to capture taut drama, but he has become increasingly interested in what it means to depict compelling drama in his later years. This was brought to his apotheosis at the end of Killers of the Flower Moon, when the director inserts himself into the film as a reader of a radio drama, reflecting on the fact that justice was never served in this story. Scorsese is a purveyor of injustice with good intent, but he clearly has an instinct that it is for naught. In a world where The Wolf of Wall Street is as much frat boy aspiration as cautionary tale in the eyes of the culture, who could blame him? I mean, this is a no-brainer. In many ways, I would even say this would be a contender for number one, if we're being honest with ourselves. So I'm really curious to see what the next 10 are going to be. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on Flower Moon or Fablemans? I didn't know if we give you a chance to speak on those.
I mean, I liked their on the list and all that. The thing that was like on my brain, I'm thinking of if I like made a list of best movies of the 2020s and all that, I have like a different set of ideas as to how I would go about it. And so I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know.
Yes.
Fablemans.
And also to keep in mind, this is not one person. These are various different people who I think came together. So every time we're reading a new entry, they're not the same, I think, writer and all that.
So as to like where I would put certain movies is different from what they did and all that. So it's kind of interesting to look at this and all that. But yeah, I am glad that both of these movies are here, especially for Killers.
My favorite movie of 2022 and my favorite movie of 2023. So not a coincidence there for sure. All right, number 10, After Sun. Sometimes you just know you're in the presence of greatness. This is Paul Mescal, by the way, his movie. We've certainly seen stories of filmmakers digging up their own past to either reclaim it or therapize it. But when Charlotte Wells gave us After Sun, she became a generational voice. The story of an 11-year-old girl named Sophie on what would be the last trip with her 31-year-old father, Callum. Just days before his birthday, watches Wells grasping and grappling as she searches for a reconciliation of sorts. This is a devastating movie in a quiet way. You don't really know what's happening. You don't even know. This is one of these movies that when you're watching, and I know this kind of gave it away already, but you're basically watching the last trip of a father and daughter, and the dad's going to not live, let's just say, very past when this is taking place. And there's a scene that happens, I think, midway. Look, when you watch this movie, I'm getting chills thinking about it because there are some shots where you're like, oh my God. Like, that's like a generational shot. So I totally see what people are saying about this. And then when the ending clicks, it's one of these like, wow. Oh my god, I don't know. I keep saying "oh my god," but it's one of the you get one of these realizations of what's happening. I think they say it right here. The use of Polaroids, mini DV footage, and eerie reflection flames. What we see in such a way that Callum feels like an apparition, a ghostly memory. The Under Pressure sequence. That's the song by Queen, Under Pressure, but they use that song over a sequence, which has been teased for us like a horror film since the film's beginning, culminates in the most I'm getting chills reading this because I'm just like, in the most harrowing scene of the film, a shattering realization of loss being codified in a single moment. For me, this is the best film of the decade so far. The birth of a new talent and the birth of a star. Yeah, this is one of those movies where it's like, I can't believe someone thought of capturing this image in this way, and it's working so well. And it's happening in a way where, like, when you see it and you're confronted with it, you're not quite sure what it is until the ending happens, and then all those other pieces kind of fall and click into place, and you're like, oh, that's what I was watching. Yeah. I would definitely say this is a must watch for sure. After Sun. And I think this is the one that put Paul Mescal on my radar for sure. And then number 9 is a movie that is near and dear to my heart, Drive My Car. Grief is truly one of the most powerful emotional events that we can endure. It's a transformative experience that has an almost magical quality in the ways that it can expose varying degrees of passion that we are buried within. The tragic, unrelenting regret lives in harmony with memories of bittersweet joy, confounding our brief existence on this planet while appreciating the complexities we continually explore. Ryusuke Hamaguchi's Drive My Car takes its time to ruminate in these thoughts. It takes 40 minutes for the opening credits to play. I'm not even kidding. Utilizing all of its 3 hours to contemplate the process by which we come to terms with the decisions that have created such trauma in our lives, as well as the opportunities that present themselves to evolve into a more mature soul. His storytelling is quiet and reserved, valuing the intimate spaces that exist between characters who reveal impactful truths through simple conversations. But of course, nothing about these dynamics lacks nuance. Through art itself, reaching across time and translated through cultures, we find past experiences reflected back at us. And sometimes it takes... So this is a really cool thing about this movie, is that it's this basically play director. You know, he lost his wife. He goes off into, I think, a different part of Japan. He's recruited to basically direct this play, this production, but it's actually it's not like a local town thing. It's like a legit, like, holy crap, this is like a big production they're going to put on. And he's hiring these actors. And it's one of these things where, like, I think Uncle Vanya, I think it's the play that they're doing. And a lot of what's in the play relates to what the actors, quote unquote, the characters in this movie are going through. And it's just like really cool to see that happen. And you see sequences of these actors saying their lines, and it's kind of, I don't know if it's meta, the right way of saying it, but you're seeing actors act. Actors act like they're acting or act like they're actors in a movie. It's really interesting. Yeah, this is a special one too, and it's also one that kind of stays with you. And I believe I've spoken about this movie for a couple of years now. It's one of my favorites of this decade for sure, and one that I will not forget. This next one, this is the one I will say I don't get.
Mm-hmm.
May December. This was a movie with Julianne Moore and with Natalie Portman. I believe you can watch it on Netflix right now. This was directed by Todd Haynes. I don't know if this movie was for me, and I'm not even sure I totally got what it was going for. It's also just a weird movie for its subject matter. If I'm not mistaken, Julianne Moore, younger, when she was in this movie, she had an affair with a student, I want to say. and then the student leader ended up marrying. Let me see if this here. So Gracie, played by, I think, Julianne Moore, and Joe, played by Charles Melton, they got together when she was 36 and he was 13. And if that makes you uncomfortable, well, it's not just you. Causing a scandal heard around the country, loosely inspired by real-life events in the Mary Kay Lortenow scandal. First of all, that's just wild. 36 and 13? It's also making me pretty angry that I'm closer to one of those ages than the other. Anyway, moving past that, the next movie, which I just purchased a Criterion Blu-ray off of, All of Us Strangers, the movie that I mentioned earlier. We yearned for fulfilling relationships, whether they be romantic, platonic, or familial. The opportunity to forge meaningful bonds is so vital, and the absence of such ties is a deep sadness that's almost impossible to endure. It's a theme that has run constantly through Andrew Hayes' filmography, and it's no wonder that he should continue this commentary with this movie. Yet another moving and tender portrait, the character study that examines the crippling isolation which hardens through time, self-inflicted by emotional trauma that prevents such significant ties from forming. It is only when confronted with those choices of loss and grief that a beautiful catharsis can emerge. Yeah. Also, Claire Foy and Jamie Bell in this movie are amazing. You should go watch it just for that. In this movie, and I gotta tell you, David, I don't know, this next to number 6, and you might know it if you look at it in front of you. Did we ever talk about this movie on the show?
We did. We briefly talked about it.
Did we?
Yeah. And
this is a movie we saw together, Nickel Boys.
Mm-hmm. We saw it together with Brutalist, same day, I think. And I don't know about this being on the list. Like, it was good.
It's hard to remember, by the way, that this was the same day.
Yeah.
This was maybe because it was at different theaters.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Brutalist, that thing hit, and Nickel Boys. Not that it didn't, but it didn't. It didn't linger in my mind at all.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell you,
it was a good movie. I liked the cinematography of it. Like, it was really interesting, especially in the beginning, where you know, if you remember, it was basically the main character, just sort of realizing for the first time that he's black. Like, the concept of a black person is like going to his mind, and like the last shot in the beginning, like the, I guess, opening of it is like him looking at his hands, like realizing, like, am I black or something? Like, that concept of it. Like, there were some interesting shots like that throughout the movie, and for those who don't know, like, the whole movie is shot on someone's POV. Like, that's all you're seeing. And you had an interesting story of what this character goes through, the, like, I guess, the racism of it all and all that. But ultimately, in the end, it didn't really catch us that much, you know, unlike what we saw with the Brutalist and all. I think it's worth a watch for people, just for, like, I guess, the art of it. But I really don't know how I would even put this on the list, honestly.
I appreciate I want to appreciate the POV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I don't know if I ever really got into it because of it, though. I gotta tell you, maybe it was a barrier for me. That's what they say here. Stripping away the comfortable distance provided by a camera to hold the audience by the shoulders and truly confront the atrocities on the screen. It is not uncommon to see evil in a movie, but it has rarely been this empathetically or compellingly portrayed. The first-person POV that the film deploys could be written off as a wanting trick in the hands of a lesser filmmaker, but Ross does so with explicit intent. By showing the film through the eyes of the subjects, it removes the pre-established context of the story. It's an exercise of empathy unparalleled in the last decade of filmmaking. It is a film that requires a degree of acclamation. It is a new mode of storytelling for a film of this ilk. It is not a means for adrenaline or inertia. It is a way to contemplate the very idea of photography. We are used to seeing these subjects, subjected to the acts around them in the frame. In Nickel Boys, the safety of third person is removed, and the history suddenly becomes the present. The world of the film is the here and now. It is only upon reflection that you are able to fully pick the pieces apart and grapple with the experience. It is a film of small moments, epic truths, and the statement of the early mastery from cinematographer Jomo Frey and director Ramel Ross. Bro, this movie is beloved by these circles. I gotta tell you, I feel the same way as you do. I watched it. I thought it was nice. I thought, hey, this is cool. But it failed completely to live in my mind. And I don't know if that's unfair, because this is at a time where there's Nosferatu to my left, there's The Brutalist to my right. You know, maybe there were other movies that were like more captivating for me, but this one just didn't really live in my head, you know?
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. So would I put this? No, not on this list. That would not be I wouldn't even, I think there were a lot of movies, let's just say, that were not even on the honorables mention list that I think I far prefer over this one. That's just how I feel about it. Number 5. Nope. Jordan Peele. Did you see this movie?
No, not yet.
Okay. This is a weird one, but it's a good one. I don't know if it's that different from Get Out or from Us, but this is a really just cool movie. It's kind of a couple of different genres in one, you know, like it's a horror movie. It's kind of a Western in some aspects because of the locale that it's in. It also can be kind of a blockbuster with certain sequences that we see in here. When this movie came out, there were a lot of, I think, connections in the movie that people were calling Spielbergian, which is really interesting here. It also has a really interesting commentary about, you know, the history of film and also the history of Black people and film. Nope encompasses a substantial scope of individual ideas that enrich its larger whole. The forgotten history of Black talent and labor in Hollywood, a broken family's efforts to reassemble itself in the face of a terrifying unknown, the obsessive devotion and the work required behind the scenes to capture the awe-inspiring on camera. In other words, making a movie. But Nope finds its most cogent focus in the insidious nature of show business itself, how the industry eagerly exploits the helpless or the unfamiliar. Here, meaning both children and animals, earthly or otherwise, and finds a way to turn a profit. In making a movie about a group of individuals trying to capture the perfect shot of an alien life form, Nope probes the very nature of what it means to observe and commodify via the lens of a camera. Yeah, you don't really get that from the trailer, but if you watch it, there's a lot of layers to it. Peele communicates these themes through a Spielbergian sense of immersive awe and wonder, pairing that master's flair for startling creature horror and rousing sci-fi set pieces with his own distinct vitality that turns this UFO thriller into a pop movie triumph. Yeah. This is definitely a must-watch. Power of the Dog is not. This is the one where I would just not even entertain whatsoever. I've seen this movie. I don't know. The people have referred to this as like one of the best movies, if not the best movie of the last decade. Crazy. This is not even one I'm entertaining. Bye. Next, number 3. This one, though, is great. It is horrifying. The Zone of Interest. This movie is about people. They're Nazis. They're high up in the Nazi German Empire. This family head is the person in charge of the Auschwitz concentration camp, and they live right next to it. They build a house, and they live right next to a concentration camp. And if you think about that for more than 10 seconds, and if you know the things that went on in concentration camps, what a stupid ass thing to do. For many, many reasons. Things that are happening in that camp not just can be heard if you literally put a house next to the goddamn fence, but if you remember what they did to the Jews in the camps, and if you live by nearby rivers, or if you had your window open at the wrong time, you might inhale something not great. I watched this movie alone in San Diego a few years ago when it came out. Many of the things here are harrowing. Harrowing not, I think, on the level of Schindler's List, but more just depressing in its banality of how common evil is, and how it's honestly a film that makes you kind of think, is it just in our nature to be ambivalent? Is it in our nature to do whatever we need to do to get ahead and stay ahead, no matter what the cost? Let's see. What would it be like to live with this every day? Could you? What kind of person could? And what would do it to them? The answer seems to be that only a true believer could survive this kind of environment, but they only do so at the cost of their soul. Glazer, the filmmaker here, doesn't have to reach for present-day relevance, but no one who saw the Zone of Interest could possibly have been surprised when he called for support of Palestine when accepting the Academy Award for Best International Feature. Unlike so many Holocaust films that drown in sentimentality and wallow in misery, The Zone of Interest is presented with the feeling of a fly-on-the-wall documentary with moments of art. There's this moment in the movie. This is one of the shots. This general person who we were watching the whole movie with, it's toward the end. He's walking down the stairs. Not in his house, but like in this building. He's completely alone. He stops, and then he stares down this dark hallway. And you never see what he's looking at. But it's almost as if he's looking at us. It's a weird, creepy moment. But I'm also, and then I think it cuts to images of present day, of what the concentration camps look like today. And I guess some have interpreted this, and I've read reviews where it's as if like there's a schizzic break and he's looking into the future. In a way, looking out of the film into present day, and then being so sickened and horrified, but not just that, then also of all of what he's had to put up with. And he vomits all over himself on the floor because the disgust of what he was doing, the disgust of what he was engaging with, was finally manifesting itself out of his body because of how much horror he was exposing itself to. And ultimately what that was communicating is it's not natural for us to be that banal about atrocities happening around the world, and that eventually you have to fight deep down within you to swallow in that disgust within you to keep yourself going. It's can I tell you, it's brutal. It's a hell of a movie. Definitely one I think that people are going to remember, but this is not something I would recommend to you on a fun Friday afternoon. And the final two entries, Number 2, Oppenheimer, which, I mean, well, duh, right?
Yeah.
That's not even,
Mm-hmm.
come on. And then number 1, Tar. This is an interesting movie. Very, very interesting movie with Kate Blanchett starring as Lydia Tarr. What makes Tar such a smart and savvy portrait of the Me Too era is that Todd Field doesn't find it necessary to explicitly describe or depict the details of Tar's bad behavior. We know all too well that's never how it works when a person of her prominence and stature is accused. And while that specific point in time is perfectly rendered, what gives Tar its staying power is that Field and Blanchett make Lydia Tarr far more than just a time-bound emblem. Instead, this is a razor-sharp character study and an augury of unchecked power. At the center of it all is a titanic Blanchett, whose Lydia is strong yet weak, beautiful yet terrifying, a genius yet hilariously embarrassing. It's a towering creation of the best performance by an actor this decade. After she plinks away at her piano in her Berlin flat, Field's camera transitions with a bang as we witness Tar conducting Mahler from below. We look up at her in wonder and awe in the same way we will view Blanchett and Field's modern opus for years to come. That's the list. Any thoughts on this? Do we have any movies that we are surprised didn't make it? I think there's one that kind of sticks out to me, David. But go ahead. What are generally? Do you like the list? There are some that maybe you're a bit ambivalent to. What surprising omissions there were?
There were some I haven't seen, so I can't really say for sure whether or not they belonged.
And
on the list.
I also haven't seen some of these as well.
Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then I do. And so what I said earlier about how if I make this list, there's a certain mindset I would go about it. And to me, it's just the idea of like which movies exactly represent the 2020s, like what's been going on in the past 5 years. And so that's why I thought Inside would have worked, because I mean, that one's just like, 2020 the movie,
It's
2020
the
the musical
COVID project.
Yeah,
really, and not just even COVID, but it's speaking to the society that we were while COVID is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's like I would agree with you tenfold. That should be in consideration to be on that list.
Mm-hmm. So just and then I understand Barbenheimer being there because that it's not so much a representation of what happened in the 2020s, but like it is a big moment for this era, I guess you can say. One that just stands out completely. So I kind of wish that one was there. I understand maybe why they didn't put the Batman in it. It's, as much as I fucking love the movie and all that, it is just another superhero movie, so I can see why they didn't find it to be much of a standout. I do wish RRR was in there.
Yeah, that was surprising, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That should be in there.
Because I feel like out of everything, out of all the movies within these past 5 years, like that might be the most surprising out of all of them. Just like, because especially for this movie, you don't really talk about it much. I feel like in terms of like other foreign movies, you mostly just look at, either Japanese or ones from China or something like that. Like those are the big ones that we always ever talk about. In Korean films and all that. What was the Squid Game? I know it's not that movie, but Squid Game was like a really big standout. And so for this movie, it was just very surprising. I kind of wish it would have gotten more recognition, especially in the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So I would have liked that one. Everything else, oh yeah, like we said, Nickel Boys. I don't think it should have been in there.
Yeah.
So
I would say if there are two movies that were like, I don't think this should be here, it would be Nickel Boys and it would be The Power of the Dog. That's for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think two films that should be added in there eventually, because I just think they're modern day American epics. Sinners, one battle after another. I think with both, I think definitely are 2020s movies for sure.
For sure, one bad after another.
Also, yes. What about Dune Part 2 and Avatar: The Way of Water?
That one's kind of tough, especially for Way of Water. I don't know. I feel like I kind of want to wait till the next movie comes out at the very least, because I would like for one of them at least to be included in the list. So
Fire and Ash could be better.
Yeah, and
That's
then
true.
Dune Part 2, I think it for sure should have been there. At least
Godzilla -1.
Yeah. Ooh. That one. Mm-hmm.
That one's really good.
Yeah, that one's really good.
Like really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised no mention for Poor Things. With Emma Stone. Because that one I think was like a.
There wasn't any animated movies, in that list. There should at least be like.
The only one was Hayao Miyazaki, but that was for the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the top 25. If they had put Boy in the Heron, there would have been at least one animated movie. But yeah, no animated movies at all, which is like, excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are plenty of them. And even like, if you don't want to put a Wild Robot or Across the Spider-Verse, well, there's Flow, or there's Del Toro's Pinocchio. You would think would be something that would be put in there, but no animated movie in there at all that I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, there's a lot of movies, right? It's hard to put them all when you only have, I guess, 25. Not very many horror movies either.
Mm-hmm.
From what I could tell on that list. Pearl, I think, is one that is really loved. Barbarian is one that's maybe not top 25, but one worth of, I think. Well, actually, Nope is a horror movie. Let me correct myself. And so is I Saw the TV Glows. So I do want to be fair to the list. It did have some of those in there. Yes, I agree with you. RRR, but you notice what wasn't there? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
Because that one's, and I feel maybe some people soften on it because of its, like, maybe it's Best Picture win. I don't know. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is a generational film.
Yeah. See, that one I would put it in as like that marks the 2020s. I feel like that one just so connected to it for its message and what the characters were going through and all that. I don't know. The thing is, for me, for the 2020s, like something that's just been really hitting really hard in certain stories is just the generational trauma that people go through, and it's kind of telling it's people close to our age that are telling those kinds of stories, because you got Everything Everywhere All at Once. Turning Red is kind of like that. Encanto.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the best movies that we've seen the past couple of years all kind of have to do with that subject matter. Let's see. I mean, which other ones?
I think those are the clear ones. If I were to think of I think of Dune 2. Think of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Sinners, One Battle After Another, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer. Those I think are kind of like not in the lead, but just what you would think of 2020's movies. What about? I'm not saying I'm advocating for this, but West Side Story, which is interesting because like it's a remake, it's a period piece.
Yeah.
It didn't really do anything really. I mean, people didn't watch it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it isn't speaking to things that are relevant today. I mean, West Side Story ultimately is Romeo and Juliet, but what is Romeo and Juliet if not a story about people being blinded by hate and destroying each other,
Mm-hmm.
which very much can be relevant to what is happening with life today. Specifically with how certain countries treat certain ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some overall interesting selections. I'm not necessarily thinking of too many other ones that could be in there. I think that should be about it. What, K-pop Demon Hunters? You know, I think that's a no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel like if you ask the normie of like, I think the 2020s have been an interesting, I think, decade for like what things have like broken out that are not your typical, I guess, blockbuster movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Weapons. That kind of like, maybe it wasn't a mega hit, but it had a moment for sure. There are movies like, I think some of the bigger hits, like I'm thinking of Wicked or Beetlejuice.
Mm.
I'm talking about like popular movies that normie audiences have liked a lot and then have connected. The Wild Robot being one of them, for sure. So that's interesting to point out there. Maybe we'll see. Maybe some people would put Furiosa in that discussion. George Miller.
Yeah, maybe.
That's one. Did you ever see The Substance?
No.
I think that one some people might put up there as like, maybe we should like consider that movie, but yeah. But the whole Barbenheimer makes sense. All the other films that we've been talking about make sense for sure. But altogether, not a bad list, right? I mean, there are some omissions for sure, but I think there are generally overall a good collection of films, and definitely I think all films that people should watch.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And if any of these like stood out to you as something that catches your interest, you should go ahead and watch them, because ultimately, what is this podcast if not us promoting this art form in every way we can, and reminding people that this is the medium, this is the art form that I think generally you will get the most out of. That's just one person's opinion, at least.
Mm.
As we close out this podcast, any other thoughts, David?
No, not really.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the next few weeks and months have in store for us. We have, of course, more movies to watch and to experience and to review. At some point, we are going to have a top 10 of 2024. That's going to be really interesting when we actually record that one and we release it. And then we'll go from there, right? So thank you all for watching. Stay under our red spotlight for more content and more. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.